Hi, you guys. Today we're going to be talking about ratios and proportions and how to solve a proportion after we go over what a ratio is, because a proportion is made up of several ratios. But I won't go any further on that because I'm going to spoil the surprise. So I'm going to keep going. Guys, so a ratio is anything that can be represented as a fraction, or another way to say that, it's the quotient of two numbers. So, what does the word quotient mean in math? It does mean that you have two numbers that are being divided. Okay, as quotient means to divide in math, just like sum means to add, product means to multiply, difference means to subtract. So, if you can represent anything as a fraction, then you have a ratio, which fractions can be represented in several ways. Obviously, as a fraction, a over b. Okay, this is the same thing as a divided by b. Fractions mean to divide. If you didn't know, it means you are dividing. 4 over 2 means 4 divided by 2. Another way to write it is as this is kind of more of the standard way to write a ratio, a colon b, which means a to b. So if I had 4 colon 2, that means 4 to 2. So yeah. Now, when we use ratios, it is always good to reduce your ratio down. If you can write it in its most simplified form, it will help you as you are solving, because the smaller the number you have, the easier it is to solve, right? Okay, so in a little bit, we're going to do an activity where you guys tell me if you prefer cats over dogs or vice versa, which probably most likely what's going to happen is like the whole class is going to like cats because you guys love cats. So I'm going to figure out how much of you guys like cats and unfortunately how many of you guys like dogs, which that's not really a dog lover. It's kind of a dog hater, but whatever. All right, but anyway, so the next thing we're going to talk about is a proportion, which a proportion is basically two ratios that equal each other. So you're going to have one fraction equal to another fraction, or one ratio equal to another ratio. Okay, so A over B equals C over D is the standard representation of a proportion. So proportions are wonderful things that look like this. Okay, and the way that we solve proportions is by cross multiplying, which is super exciting, and I'm going to teach you how to do that if you don't already know how to do so. Now, there's some certain properties about proportions that we're going to go over. Okay, which you guys did an activity to discover these properties, which was pretty cool. Guys, so if you have the proportion A over B equals C over D, all of these statements down here are equivalent to this statement. So you could rewrite this as any of these statements, which is pretty cool. Okay, so you could also say that A times D equals B times C. If you ever see two things written side by side, there's always secretly multiplication. So this is like A times D equals B times C, which you get this by cross multiplying. Like if you cross through the equal sign, A times D, they're diagonal, will equal the other diagonal, which is B times C. Okay, also A over C equals B over D. So you could kind of go horizontally across the equal sign. So A over C will be equivalent to B over D. Another thing that works is B over A equals D over C. So if you like flip these fractions around, those are also equivalent. So B over A is equivalent to D over C. Also, the final property will hold true. Okay, so if you add A and B and divide it by the current denominator, which in this case that's B, that will equal the other two values added together. So you add the numerator to denominator and divide by the current denominator. And those two expressions will be equal to each other. So be careful. You can't like mix and match A and B and C and D however you like. So just be careful. Like for example, you did not see like let's see if I can give a good example. Like you didn't see that C over B equals A over D. We know that if you multiply them, they equal, but you can't like divide them. So just be careful. These are the only rules that work if you start with the standard proportion. So be careful. Okay, so guess what, you guys? We have two proportions that we'll be solving in example 1 and 2. So remember, if you think back to over here, the way that we solve proportions is by cross multiplying. So in example 1 and 2, we're going to cross multiply to solve our ratios, which will be super exciting. Okay, well let's get started on example 1. Okay, so we're going to be solving each proportion. And remember, we solve through cross multiplying. Okay, and it really doesn't matter which way you cross multiply. I'm going to start on this end. So I'm going to go diagonally across my fraction. So I'm going to go x times 7, which I completely butchered that 7. Hold on, you guys can't see. Why can't you see? Oh, there it goes. Sorry, guys. Anyways, I meant to draw it around it, but if you see, I got distracted and I did not do that. So, I'm going to multiply these together. X times 7 will be 7x. Nice job, you guys. All right, and that will equal going the other way. So if I cross multiply the other way, I'm going to multiply 5 to 12, which 5 times 12 is 60. All right, and then from here, you simply just solve for x. So if I currently have 7 times x, I need to move it to the other side. How do I move something to the other side when you're multiplying? You would divide, the opposite. Very good. So 7 over 7 cancels and turns to 1. X will then equal 60 over 7. Which 60 over 7 cannot be reduced down any further. So guess what, you guys? That's it. That's our answer. Wasn't that fun? All right, well, if that was fun, you guys are going to get super excited about example 2 because that's even more exciting because if you see here, we got more going on in example 2. So get ready for example 2. It will be a blast.